our local teams, Michigan State and Michigan, struggled against their respective opponents. Michigan came out real strong. I believe they're up 20-3 at halftime.
Yep.
Against Rutgers, and just they could not read an RPO on defense, it seemed like. So I don't know, maybe the Rutgers just wanted to try something new, and it kind of worked. It opened it up. The defense still stood tall when they really absolutely needed to, when the offense wasn't going to do anything. And when Gaddis started calling a perimeter run, I think you had to switch it up because they were pretty much banking on the inside runs for so long. Get Corm's speed out in space, maybe try to do a reverse with A.J. Henning. You got to open up that field if you're going to commit to running the football. So
yeah, I mean, I think so. They ran it right down their throats that first drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like did everything they wanted, and only had to throw 2 passes, only had to complete 1. I mean, it was pretty beautiful, right? Took up half the quarter. It was beautiful, right? And then the next drive, it was perfect too because they played right off of that. They play action, couple RPOs, couple easy throws from McNamara, and then a quick touchdown after that because they got the big play with Roman Wilson. So everything was perfect, right? And then Rutgers was picking up a lot of third downs, so a lot of like third and fourth downs, right? So the offense didn't get back on the field again until that drive right at the end of the half, right? Because both teams took up so much of the first quarter with their first drives. That's kind of what happened. So the rhythm was kind of thrown off, I think. And then obviously Rutgers went for it on fourth down, like in their own territory for some reason.
Yeah.
That was stupid. But and then we get the 50-yard play to Mike Sainristil, and then Cade misses the touchdown. Right after he got smoked on that same play to Sainristil. And then, we had to settle for a field goal. So whatever. I mean, not great. You want to hit the touchdown, especially on wide open. But after that, I just feel like there was no rhythm in the offense. So they didn't pick up a first down until that last drive that they had the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the biggest problem is like they just they weren't picking up 3rd and 1s, and they couldn't get into any kind of flow, to where they were just picking up a couple first downs because that's how a quarterback and an offense kind of get in rhythm. And they just didn't have any of that. And then the play calling, I mean, yeah, the perimeter run needed to be a bigger part of the package. People were yelling to like call a pass or whatever. He called passes. Like there was the one drive where they went 3 and out. He called 3 straight passes. So like, I mean, I don't know really what you want other than
that's all on McNamara at that point. We saw McNamara.
Better execution at that point. I mean, Sanders still probably should have caught the one. It wasn't a great throw, but it was good enough. Should have been like 8 or 9 yards. That would have changed things. So, there's some things. I don't know. I look at it as like the positives to take from the game. The defense, yeah, they stood tall. They were on the field the whole second half essentially. So and they stood tall.
And I was looking at the snap counts. He was cycling in quite a bit of even the backups just because they're on so long. You have to, and yet some of those backups were reliable, so that's comforting.
Yep. Josh Ross got hurt, didn't come back. So
he's expected to play next week, though, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
he should be. He's probable. That's what Jim Harbaugh said. So he'll be fine.
Mullings did a pretty decent job in his spot.
Did okay. I mean, he got lost a few times, but Junior Colson was pretty good. Nikai Hill-Green stepped up. So the young linebackers, while they were clearly being picked on like the one Rutgers touchdown, they're completely picked on that play.
That was Nikai Hill-Green that got misread that one.
Yep. But, but good on Rutgers. I mean, they knew Ross was out, so they picked on the weak spot. Makes sense. But the good to take out of that is, obviously, forcing the turnover at the end of the game is great. But they stood tall when they needed to. They forced a couple field goals. There were some misses for sure. But they stood, like you said, they stood tall when they needed to. The D-line started to make some plays late in that game that really kind of turned the tide over. And then, I mean, there are some positives on offense. I thought the first half was pretty brilliant for the most part. I mean, nothing really went wrong. They just didn't have the ball very much. And, the offensive line was great in the first quarter. Rutgers did some things to they devoted some extras into the box so that, so then we were able to throw it over their head at the beginning. we didn't take any real deep shots. I didn't really rewatch much of the game, so I don't know if those were even there. But I don't think we really needed to necessarily. And I don't know if we, I mean, other than Cornelius Johnson, we don't really have that guy to do that right now.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's positives to take on how the first half went, but then there's obviously the big negatives. Some of the play calling was questionable as far as, what kind of runs you're running. I don't really question how many passes they threw. I mean, if you're not picking up first downs, you're just not going to have an opportunity to keep.
And he proved it even when he did pass, he couldn't get it to his guy all the time. So
yeah, he just didn't have it. So I mean, kind of goes back to what we talked about. I don't know if McNamara is like the long-term solution here. I don't think he necessarily is. But again, they still haven't turned the ball over. I think they're the only FBS team that hasn't.
Yeah, because Rutgers was one. Well, Rutgers is one of three. I know Michigan and Rutgers are one of three teams.
I think Western is the other one. I think Western.
Western?
Yeah, I think it is.
They didn't get Western to turn the ball over when they played them?
No.
No kidding. Okay.
They've only forced 2.
Well, that's good. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the bad sign is maybe they're overdue. Like, I don't know.
Sure. I mean, there's that because I mean, I do subscribe to the school of there's not. I mean, I don't think all turnovers are luck, but there is some luck that goes into turnovers. Like if a guy throws it right at you and you drop it, all right, or like the fumble that you fumbled in the backfield, something just bounces right back to you. Like that's luck. You know what I mean? Like, so there's some of that. So yeah, it's one of those things they do, but part of it is I think McNamara is just never going to be a guy that's going to necessarily force the ball into. I can't think of one time where they've been close to throwing an interception this year.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to happen, I think there's one where it like hit a defensive lineman's fingers and it popped up in the air and kind of went right back down. And it was like, oh, maybe, but it was still not.
Yeah, but that wouldn't necessarily be on the throw. I mean, the throw needed.
Yeah, it counted as a turnover per se, right. But not on the.
There hasn't been anything like by forcing it into coverage. Like there's been none of that. And I think that's why Michigan wants him as their quarterback right now is just because it's, if you turn the ball over, that's a real easy way to lose, right? If you don't turn the ball over, you're probably going to beat most teams that you should beat, right? Yep. So that gives you 8 wins probably no matter what if you don't really turn the ball over. Now is he going to take you over the top? Probably not from what we've seen, but I don't know. He's got a big test this next week and he might pass it. I don't know.
Yeah, so the big test heading to Camp Randall for their first away game of the year. They've been kind of spoiled with 4 straight home games, but they got an over-under set at 43.5. Looks like on ESPN's GameCast matchup predictor, Michigan's actually 69% projected to win to 31, which does kind of surprise me. But I do. It's honestly the record.
Wisconsin, though, if I looked, I think it was Wisconsin by 3 or something like that, or 4.
Yeah, I don't know how they came up with that. Maybe they're looking solely at the record, but Wisconsin's had a pretty tough schedule to work with, other than Eastern Michigan in week 2.
Wisconsin by 1. So it's basically a push. It's basically even.
Yeah, losing 41-13 to Notre Dame though. That I think they're going to be playing pissed off.
Yeah.
And obviously I think Graham Mertz is leading all Big Ten quarterbacks in interceptions with like 6.
Yeah.
But again, tough schedule. I mean, Penn State defense is no joke. Notre Dame defense is no joke. I don't know. Malusi is starting to show himself as the number 1 running back for Wisconsin, and obviously they've had Danny Davis for a while as their wide receiver target. But Michigan still quorum, I think, is towards the top in rushing yards in the FBS. McNamara can stay mistake-free, maybe make a few of the completions he didn't last week against a lesser team. Then this game should be competitive and should come out as a Michigan dub. So what do you think on
that? It's tough because, like, Michigan – I'm looking at it right now, like Michigan should win this game. Like I think they're a better team. But that's a tough place to play. You're going to be, you're on the road for the first time, which sucks that that's where it is. Like I'd rather have just gone to Rutgers last week or, you know what I mean? Or, or Maryland or something. But I think it, Michigan should win by a touchdown. That's the way I look at it, or 10 points or something. The question I'm going to be more interested to see how they handle Wisconsin on defense, not because I think Wisconsin's offense is all that incredible. It's just the last 2 times they played, 3 times probably. Let me go back. 2 times they played Wisconsin, they've just been absolutely manhandled, right? Wisconsin also had better running backs and better. They were better up front before too. So it's a little bit different team this year for Wisconsin, but they've just been completely manhandled up front the last 2 times. So I'm really interested to see what they do up front, and see how they handle Wisconsin's running attack, because Wisconsin's just different in how they go about their business up, running the ball. So I'm really interested to see how Michigan does against that. Best case scenario is they just completely stuff them in a box basically, and then it looks like the Washington game, where we can just handle our business on offense and then just dominate them up front on defense. I just don't see that happening necessarily though, just because Wisconsin's defensive front is really good. So I don't know how much we're going to be able to really run the ball. We're not going to be able to. I think we can run the ball. It'd be awesome to see that offensive line just kind of take over a really good front seven, but Cade's going to have to make some plays. He doesn't need to be, Trevor Lawrence, I don't think. And I don't really think they need to ask him to be. I think he just needs to make the plays that are there to be made. When the opportunity presents itself, make the plays. And he really, he's been hit or miss with that this year. He did it in the first half last week, but you can't miss throws and miss reads that are obvious. So if he can do that, I would say Michigan by 17-13 or 20-13, something like that. I don't really think it's going to be a high-scoring game at all. So,
yeah, I'd be shocked if any team put up more than 24.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's
unless there's a bunch of turnovers, because that's why. The Wisconsin Notre Dame game was 10-10 heading into the fourth, or 17-10, I think, heading into the fourth quarter, and then Graham Mertz threw 2 pick sixes. So that's not, that's kind of where that game ended. So Wisconsin was right there with Notre Dame, and I'm not super high on Notre Dame either, but force Mertz to have to beat you, because I don't think he can. I really don't think he can.
Yeah, I think this is going to be. I kind of want to say, like, this could be like a 24-20 maybe, and I think I'm going to give it to. And I think I'm picking Wisconsin.
Yeah. They're at home. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That seems like a good score there.
But this is definitely going to be a very telling game for Michigan's future through the rest, because we did expect them to be 4-0 going into this game before going to Wisconsin. So when we looked at the schedule earlier, there's a possibility they win this game, then they have a relatively simple schedule, or
heading up to Michigan State.
Where Michigan would probably be a top 8 team in the league, in the FBS by the time. So
crazy to think about. It's crazy how that can change, like, because obviously, what are they, 14 right now in the AP?
Yeah.
In the Coaches Bowl. So if they're 14th right now, and all these teams are losing ahead of them. Clemson has 2 losses.
Clemson's at ranked 25 now, just like that.
They stink. They're not good. There's a couple other teams that have lost. Notre Dame doesn't look good. Ohio State has problems. There's teams ahead of them that have issues. So yeah, it's crazy though. This game, I think we talked about it too, though. This game is a pivot in the season, like you just said. Like it is like if they win this game, and I don't even care how they win it. They could win it 3-0. It doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, you take that dub however you can get.
Yeah, especially on the road, you're taking that thing however you can. But if they win this game and look like the far superior team, like that's gonna turn some heads for sure. Like
if they handle them, win 27-10, that's a pretty telling final score.
Right.
I think against Wisconsin in Wisconsin.
That's what I would say is like best case scenario, because I think like if they put it all together, that's what they could do. But I could also see them losing 27-10. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they turn the ball over a couple times, and then McNamara just doesn't have it. They can't block anybody up front, and then Wisconsin just eventually wears them down and scores like 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and then the game's over type thing. I could see that happening too.
Yeah. Number 17, Michigan State Spartans, staying kind of right there with Michigan step for step in the rankings. They won an overtime thriller last week against Nebraska, 23-20. Nebraska can definitely be one of those stingy teams in the Big Ten that's going to make you work for it. Not necessarily a great team for sure in the Big Ten, but they're gonna make you fight for every yard.
Nebraska might be the second best team in the West.
The West is still up in the air right now. If Wisconsin doesn't win this game,
the West is bad. I'm just gonna say this right now. The West, the record of the Big Ten West this season is like barely above 500, right?
I would say Iowa's ranked 5 right now, though, aren't they?
Yeah, Iowa's the undefeated team. Everybody else, I'm pretty sure, has a loss.
Yeah, I mean, but if Wisconsin loses this game, then Nebraska's right in there with it for second place in the West. But I don't know. I kind of have it sitting right there at Wisconsin being the second, still there. But
sure.
Let Nebraska battle for it. Michigan State gets to play a little bit easier between going to playing Western Kentucky Hilltoppers.
Yeah.
They're like 89% chance to win right now on the matchup predictor on ESPN.
Yeah.
But Western has a quarterback that's, I think, top 8 in FBS and passing yards already. He's got like 1,250 passing yards, Zep. And, obviously they don't run the ball very much, though. Their leading running back has 82 rushing yards in the season. So
not good.
That's not good.
If you're Michigan State, you're going to be better than this team. You just got to avoid a letdown after, a big game in the night game last week. You had to win in overtime. You didn't play well at all. That game almost mirrored Michigan's game, because they were playing pretty good in the first half, and then suddenly Michigan State didn't pick up a single first down until overtime. From second half until they did not pick up a first down in the second half. That's insane, and they still won the game.
It's kind of interesting how Michigan State has almost mirrored Michigan. Since the season. I mean, both of them started out the season unranked. The second week they moved into ranked. I think Michigan State went to 25 and Michigan was 23 or 22. And they've kind of stayed within that 2 or 3 spots of Michigan this entire time. So
we talked about it last week. I think they're pretty even right now. You might lean one way or the other based off home field advantage right now, but until we see more, I'm not going to pick one or the other. These teams are going to be different even by the time they see each other. So, but I don't know. Michigan State, they fought through the adversity. It was a close game. They shouldn't have. They were a better team than Nebraska for sure. Nebraska just can't get out of their own way. I mean, they just, oh my God, how many penalties? That was terrible. Just a terribly coached team. It's just, you can tell, just completely terribly coached. But Michigan State fought through the adversity. They didn't play well, and they still got out of there with a win, kind of like Michigan. They didn't play well, still got out of there with a win. That's the whole point. That's, in the end, as long as you get the win, even if you played terrible, you can go fix it. If you take the L and you play terrible, then, you can still go fix it, but it sucks. And then you're sitting there like Clemson, where it's like, man, maybe we don't have the talent to just overcome playing poorly. So I don't know. But for Michigan State, I mean, pretty thrilled. I mean, they're better, way better than I thought they would be. Just from a organizational standpoint, even just from a pure just look like they know what they're doing on the field. They're just so far beyond. They don't make terrible mistakes. They make mistakes, but they aren't just boneheaded. They're more physical mistakes than complete mental or lack of understanding about what's going on. So they have not beaten themselves, and that's why they beat Nebraska, and then Nebraska beat themselves. So
yeah, Nebraska's done it a lot this year. They could be in some games, but they've had some pretty tomfoolery type of plays for sure.
Ridiculous, like the punt. Okay, so that punt, they called
against Illinois. Yeah.
But the punt against Michigan State, the one Michigan State returned, they called punt right, so the punter punted it to the returner on the left. All the gunners are going to the right. There was no one there to the left to tackle the guy. It was just
my whole family on my dad's side is Nebraska fans. And my uncle texted me before that game, and he's like, Nebraska has the worst special teams in the entire country.
Literally the worst.
Mm-hmm.
the worst. It's incredible how bad they are. Like it's just I don't get it. And then Adrian Martinez is not just makes dumb mistakes. Takes a lot.
I really did not expect that from him in his third year of starting.
Yeah,
it's wild.
He throws the interception there at the end where it's like, dude, all you needed, if you could have just, I know the field goal, you don't want to kick field goal in overtime, you want to score 6, but like, especially if you're going first, obviously, but it's, if you can't turn the ball over, like if you at least kick the field goal, then you can force them to a field goal, especially an offense for Michigan State that hadn't done anything all game or all second half. So I don't know.
I think Michigan State's got to win this game by 21 points or more, though, to feel good.
Game to feel good about it, yeah. I mean, said you got to avoid a letdown, because I don't know who they play the week after, but they're back in the Big Ten play, I'm sure. Let's take a look, actually. Real quick.
Yeah, while you do that, I'm going to read off some of Isaiah's potential takes on the rest of the football seasons. He has Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase pranking the entire league in the preseason. That for sure has been Jamar Chase has definitely fleeced a lot of people. Made him fall big time in our fantasy football league. Still a rookie, still probably going to make some mistakes throughout the year, but he's proving he's not what he was. And the Lions will not win a game until November. So ouch, because I feel like there's actually a real opportunity for them to win this week. Yep. Michigan will beat Wisconsin if they throw for 300 yards. We haven't seen a Michigan quarterback throw for 300 yards in a long time. That's not been Michigan's thing. I think Shea Patterson might have done it once.
He did it a few times at the end of his career. He threw for almost 400 one day.
Oh, did he? Okay, yeah. But we haven't had a regular 290 to 300, 400 since Chad Henne before him.
No, and he didn't even really, just because that wasn't the thing back then. His game, I'm looking up Shea's game log real quick because I'm curious. But he had a few 300s.
It's just against the Wisconsin defense, especially. I felt like that was an overreach number. I feel like if you throw for 225 yards against Wisconsin, you have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, just don't turn the ball over and throw and be efficient. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he ended his career really good. So Shea Patterson did. He threw against Michigan State. He threw for 414, and then he threw for 366, 305, and then 333. So he was 3. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't had anybody close to that in a while. So yeah, they don't need to throw for 300 yards to win. They need to, if they have 450 yards of total offense, they'll win though.
Oh, for sure. I don't know who gets 450 yards total offense against the Badgers, especially in Wisconsin.
If they have 400 yards of total offense, they'll win.
I will go to 360. They get one.
200, they'll win, no doubt. Balance it up like that. You could probably go 350, and they'll probably win.
Isaiah's also saying the Chiefs will not lose another game, so he thinks they're going to go 15-2. And right now, that AFC West looks a little bit top heavy. It looks different.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Man. I mean, the Chiefs.
I'm not going to say that. The Chiefs are not the Chiefs we think they were, and I think there's a lot of teams.
They're really good, but there's teams that will figure them out.
Well, then I think the Bucs exposed them in the Super Bowl because it's all kind of the trickle effect from that. They're bringing extra pressure on Mahomes, and he runs around, panics, and makes weird throws, and they're not always going to be good throws.
Yep.
So, and then he has Matt Stafford as the MVP now. So that's something. I mean, Matthew Stafford just destroyed the Super Bowl champs.
He did.
Obviously, that secondary is a little more depleted than we anticipated going into this game, but
yeah, I think
Stafford's legit.
So if that game happens in the playoffs, I'd probably right now still pick the Bucs, but Stafford makes that team different. Now,
a Tom Brady regular season guy is way different than a Tom Brady playoff guy.
Exactly.
It's just different. So
and they also didn't have AB, which I know Brown isn't incredible, but he had a good beginning of the season, and I don't know, like Stafford. The question mark to me is still, does he get through the whole season completely healthy? I mean, if he could stay healthy, he'll be fine. So